Well, we're sitting with Lamar Slay, having a conversation about capital campaigns. And listen, there's a lot of churches that have had really successful capital campaigns in the past. And from your experience, if you look at some of those successful campaigns, what would you say are just key markers or elements of success that they use?
Well, I think the first thing is that there's a priority on prayer. As we talk about, when we talk about vision, we want something that unless God steps in, it's not going to happen. So unless the pastor leads the church to enter an intense season of prayer for corporately for the church, but also individually for their family, you don't have the power that you have when God's involved in it. And prayer in a campaign is just essential. One of the things that I encourage folks to do is to try to strengthen the ongoing prayer ministry of their church. In other words, don't try to do a whole lot of things that were different or weird to your congregation, but strengthen your prayer ministry in the course of the campaign. There are a lot of benefits of a campaign beyond just raising the money. So one of the things that we do in our prayer strategies is for that period of time, we ask every leader of every organization to start their meetings with prayer. And we give them things to pray for during the course of the campaign. That means every softball team that meets for practice, they start with about 7 to 10 minutes of the coach casting vision of what's going on in the church. Every women's group, every men's group, no matter where it is, if they get a group of people together, they cast vision about the campaign and they pray. And it may be real simple. It may be something we look at and go, well, that wasn't very good. But if every leader is doing that, it really makes a difference. We oftentimes see churches try to have a bunch of additional prayer meetings. And, I was in a church one time and they had a capital campaign and I was on staff there. And so they decided we were going to have 5:30 prayer meetings 2 days a week. And I remember the first time I made it, there were two little old ladies there, and they were the only two other people there besides me. And their thought was, we're the only two in this whole church that loves God. Where is everybody? Well, one of the things you've got to realize is you're putting the campaign schedule in on top of people's schedules that are already set. They're already taking kids to soccer and basketball. And so to try to get them to come to a lot of other meetings and nobody shows up doesn't mean they don't care. It just means it couldn't fit in their family and their lifestyle. So we try to capture as many opportunities that we already have to pray. That way, we've got way more people praying for the campaign and the vision of the church than we do if we have a 6 o'clock in the morning prayer meeting and even 25, 30, even 100 show up. There's still more people involved if we do it in the activities that are already going on.
I absolutely love that. Like prayer works. And if prayer's not the focus of our capital campaign, what's happening here? So
another thing that you can do is every campaign has a phone team. I mean, everybody has a phone team. You call members, you invite them to meetings and what have you. What we begin to do is rather than making that a phone team, we make it a ministry team. So we divide up every family in the church. With a phone caller volunteer has 12 to 15 families, and they're going to call them 3, 4, maybe 5 times during the course of the campaign. The last thing they ask them on every phone call is, how can I pray for you and your family in my own personal quiet time? I'm not going to share this with anybody unless you ask me to, but how can I pray for you in my own personal quiet time? We've been amazed at the intimate things that people will share when somebody says, how can I pray for you? And so we do that 3 or 4 times. The next phone call, the first thing we ask is, hey, a couple of weeks ago, you asked me to pray for your son, Johnny. He was going through a tough time. I've been praying for him. How's he doing? What's going on? Now, you have to train your people to realize who answers the phone. If a wife says, my husband's a real reprobate, and the next time the husband answers the phone, you can have issues there. When in a church's life does every family get a call asking, how can your church pray for you? Very seldom happens. So we have a lot of pastors that once we do that in a campaign, they keep that team going. And once a month, they call every family in the church and say, how can we pray for you in our own personal quiet time?
I
It's
love
a
that.
powerful ministry opportunity.
I love that. So you're folding in the priority of prayer into the every sort of day life of the church and every ministry, and you're really making it personal by creating these teams that reach out to people. Are there any other consistent themes that you see successful campaigns?
Yeah, and one thing I would say there, most churches have a prayer team. They need to be at the core of your prayer strategy. So they're strengthened as leaders after the campaign is over. I think another thing that's really, really vital is just attention to detail. In a capital campaign, there are thousands of details. And when you take those shortcuts, you lessen the effectiveness of what you're doing. So it's really important that whoever the leadership is, whether you have an outside person or you have one of your staff members, that they really have attention to detail and they keep your volunteer teams on track with their assignments, with their timelines, with that sort of thing. So that's really important. I think that's one of the mistakes churches make when they don't get some outside assistance, if they don't have anyone with experience on the staff, is they miss those details and it's not what it could be. I think the last thing I would say today is that one of the real secrets is your calendar. You've got to be wise in when you plan a capital campaign. It can either be in the spring or it can be in the fall. There's some guidelines there, but the key is you don't have a whole lot of other major things going on during the capital campaign.
Great.
You don't want to have a men's retreat where your men are out of town on a weekend. That's a key challenge time. You don't want to have a women's retreat. Same thing. Not only are there women gone, but dad has child duty. Their mind's not going to be there. So you need to clear your calendar off of everything that is extra, but not your outreach events. The worst thing you can do is have a campaign to shut down all your outreach. The reason you're doing the campaign is to advance your vision.
Sure.
So you need to eliminate as many things as you can where that calendar for the campaign gets priority in everything that happens. And there's nobody's sidetracked doing something else because they need to be focused and in touch with the campaign.
That's so good.